Everybody, thanks for watching. So yeah, real quick, anybody who's still interested in the Shopify Amazon course, make sure you guys go ahead and grab them for Monday. The sale will end on Monday. So don't hit me up about the price being lowered again. I dropped the price for a long time now. Make sure you guys take advantage. It's more than worth the price. You guys know how I break down information. I break down this course very easy for anybody to understand. If you want to get 3 new incomes, if you're looking for something extra monthly, daily, or what have you, this is the way to go. Real easy course to follow, step by step. Also going to be adding on multiple videos all the way throughout the course and all the way throughout, whenever, to help better your site and better your way to generate money in doing this whole process. So as I put up the last video, I dropped 2 videos. You guys will get any new videos free that pertains to this course or anything that you're going to be doing that we talk about in the course. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff coming up. A lot of this stuff will change once everything switches over to digital. You're going to want to be a part of this. It's going to be completely different after this happens. So you guys know what crypto is doing. You guys know these stable coins are going to be huge. They're going to be a part of everything. I break down how they're going to be implemented with Shopify and change the way you do business on Shopify sites and Amazon as well. Also, Merkabah Scholar Society members, make sure you guys go ahead and reserve for the Egypt trip. Take care of it, get it out the way. It's only $150 to reserve as I break down. And there's a pay schedule. So this thing is broken down in different ways to pay. And also the gaps in payments are super far apart. The first payment, besides the $150 to get reserved, is not until November. So this thing has been up for a month now. So it's far apart. All the payments are far apart. There are payments that you can handle to make this easier for you guys. You see what the price is. This is only because of the society. And as I break down in the video, as you can see, why we got such a dope price. So make sure you guys take advantage, get it out the way fast before everything fills up and before the deadline hits. You guys want to make sure you take care of this, all right? The schedule is laid out. Everything is broken down for you guys to easily follow and understand what's going to be happening, what's going to take place. So yeah, stay tuned to that. And we'll talk about it more in the society. As you guys know, we're going to get a lot more into it as time moves forward. So yeah, a lot of people had already reserved. People are still asking about it. Make sure you're in the society. It's only $18 to join. If you go ahead and reserve, this will automatically put you in the society. It's just $18 a month after that. Link is in the description. Make sure you guys take advantage. I'm telling you, this is something you don't want to miss. If you know me and what I do and everything that I'm about as far as Kemet and getting this information out, this is going to be big. So yeah, everybody's asking about it. The information is out there. The video is out there. Anybody can see the video. The link is in the description. I'm telling you now, you want to make sure you take advantage of it. But yeah, so we talked about in the live. You guys know tomorrow night is the fight, or tonight, depending on when this video releases. Yeah, of course, I'll be there. So I'll be at the Canelo Terrence Crawford fight. I'll be there. I've been making my rounds. You guys know I told you I have a daughter that boxes, but it's a lot going on. I'm heavily into boxing. If you know me personally, you know what I've been doing on my personal page. You guys see everything I've been doing and who I've been around. So it's big time. So I want to make sure you guys understand, man, it's a lot that's going to come with the society. It's a lot that come with what we're doing. I'm trying to get you guys involved in something that's bigger than you've ever seen before as far as a group like this. The first question I get from people are saying, hey, what can I expect with the society? I broke that down. And as I said before, if you are not familiar with my work, my research, and everything I've been doing over the last decade and some change, do not join. I don't want no newbies in here. If you're just getting into this information or what have you, I highly recommend you watch some of my videos. Understand what I talk about and what I get into and what I speak to, right? Where my heart is at. This is information that you need for many reasons. If you are new, do your research, understand. If you're trying to get out of religion, which some people are, you're trying to understand what this thing is about, I have plenty of videos on all this. And I highly recommend before you join or do anything, or even go further on my channel, watch some of your videos. There's a lot up there. Understand what we get into and why people are attracted to this place. I do not solicit. I do not go after people. I want people to find me because you're on this journey of getting into this information. So that's probably why you're here. So these are the people who I want in the society and the people that I'm looking for. So yeah, man, make sure you guys get at me. I know it's been busy. I've been super busy. There's a lot going on, but there's a lot I'm doing behind the scenes, a lot that I'm going to be bringing to the society and getting ready for this trip and getting ready for everything else. So I appreciate everybody's patience. There'll be new stuff on the app for the society members. The meeting video is already up. A lot going on, but stay tuned, man. We got a lot. It's going to get real dope. Let's get into this video. So this is getting into the Bible stealing from Egypt. highly debated topic that so many people are obsessed with lately because there's a lot of new stuff coming out. But this is something I touched on a while back, man. You guys got to understand. The Bible, when I talk about the Septuagint, Greek and everything, this was written in Egypt. Even when you go into the letters of Orestes and how we get the Septuagint, it's telling you it was written in Alexandria, Egypt. So if you're going to go with the biblical account, as far as it being proven and it being proof, you have to go with, proof that we have that Moses existed, proof that the Ark of the Covenant carried these tablets or these papyri that had writings of Moses or what have you, or the Pentateuch, Tanakh, Torah, whatever you want to call it, and that these tribes were basically protecting it and holding it, what have you. We don't have any proof of that. We don't have any proof of this stuff being what the Bible says it is or being written, right? What we do have proof of is a lot of things pertaining to Egypt. We find in the Bible as far as the 42 negative confessions being like the 10 Commandments, and all of the stories that we find that kind of mimic a lot of Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology, right? So we see this stuff. And you can now simply Google, and Google will tell you that, yeah, it's clear evidence, and a lot of scholars agree that the Bible was most likely taken from out of Egypt, right? So it says here, while the phrase stole from is conscientious, the Bible contains significant parallels to and likely drew from earlier Egyptian religious and cultural concepts, with some scholars arguing for direct influence on themes like the virgin birth of Jesus, the 10 Commandments from Ma'at's laws and wisdom, literature like Proverbs from the teachings of Amenemope, societal practices. But you also have to look at things like the virgin birth of Jesus, right? Likened to the virgin birth of Horus, right? So we've seen so many depictions of Horus and Jesus, what have you, the parallels. You've seen the statue of Isis holding Horus and the statue of, Mary and Jesus, what have you. So many parallels that we find in Egypt, which we know was before anything biblical that we have, especially the statues. We know these statues predate anything biblical. The reliefs predate anything biblical. And I've been in Egypt and I've shown you guys reliefs that they clearly copy from. So you see the biblical drawings versus the actual ancient reliefs. And we see where they get this stuff from, right? Jesus and the sheep and the staff, all the stuff we find in Kemet, hundreds of years before any of these depictions, thousands even, right? So you have to look at that. The circumcision, we find that in Egypt long before anything dealing with the Jews. So with so much stuff we find in Egypt pertaining to Egyptian mythology or Egyptian practices that clearly the Bible stole from. So people will say, well, they were enslaved in Egypt. So perhaps they picked up some of these things from Egypt during that time. The issue with that whole thing is there's no proof. So we can't prove that happened, and we can't prove that that's even a thing as far as them using these Egyptian, let's say, practices for their own practices, which is something they wouldn't do as Hebrews. None of the manuscripts was written in Israel and Jerusalem or what have you. They were written in Egypt, right? So this is the account that we get as far as any proof giving validity to the books being even as old as they are, begins in Egypt with, of course, Ptolemy II Philadelphia's, and the Septuagint. So this is the only thing that we have. So this is still happening in Egypt. There's nothing that we can find that pertains to it happening in Israel. In fact, the story itself has so many holes. And the biggest hole, of course, would be the Exodus story that has been debated so much, right? So even if you go to Israel, you have the Haaretz, which I talk about a lot. And the Haaretz, which is basically like the Jewish newspaper over in Israel, they have done many articles. They have done many reports basically saying the Exodus never happened. There's no proof of the Exodus happening. There was no Exodus. So this is one of the foundation stories of Judaism and Christianity. And you have the people in Israel, the main newspaper, basically saying, dude, it never happened. We were never enslaved in Egypt. There's absolutely no proof. Anywhere where the Israelites were believed to have traveled out of Egypt, there's no bodies. There's no artifacts. Anything pertaining to a group of people numbering in possibly 2 million leaving Egypt and going into Canaan, right? And the thing is, the number that it gives, what is that? Numbers 146 to 47, which is like 600,000. And that's just men. 600,000 men. not counting the women, which we would think is probably more or around the same amount, not including the kids, right? So possibly we're talking about 2 million people that travel out of Egypt into the land of Canaan. And it's already estimated that the Egyptian empire, let's just say the empire around that time, they believe, max 3 million people, max, right? So you mean to tell me that the Israelites traveling out of Egypt outnumbered the Egyptian people themselves, right? Which is why they put certain things in the story that, okay, the Egyptians was getting weary because the Jews were growing in numbers. And it was like, they're going to outnumber us. So we got to get rid of these people. So many things they put in there to try to justify these numbers or what have you, but it doesn't fit with actual history. So you have people like Bart Ehrman and other scholars who gets into this extensively. So it's a lot to look into when you're really getting into the whole Exodus story, because there's too many holes, right? And that's just one of them. The fact that, one, remember, if they fled, they're telling you they fled Egypt, right, to go to Israel or Canaan, right, the land of Canaan. That was still, as I've been telling you guys, it was still part of the Egyptian empire. So they fled Egypt and ended up in Egypt. So how is that? And we know there's no way in the world that the Pharaoh and the entire Egyptian army was wiped out. Because the thing is, when you go and look at this, there's no people, nobody around Egypt that understood the civilization, that talked about this civilization. None of these civilizations or any people prominent around that time mentions the Egyptian empire being destroyed. Because you would think if the entire Egyptian army was wiped out, if Ramses was wiped out, you would think that so many civilizations would have came in there and took it over. And we wouldn't hear about any of the dynasties after Ramses, right? And the Bible will tell you, King James Version is talking about Ramses II, right? You would think we would hear about this, but we have his successor. We have his kid. We have Merkabah, who successfully rules after Ramses, right? And we have his offspring and so on and so forth. We have Ramses' body. So how is it that Ramses was swallowed by the sea and that was the end of the Egyptian army when we have a successor? Now, I know people are going to say that the Bible doesn't specifically say that Ramses died, but if the Israelite army was wiped out, as it does say, you would think he was wiped out as well, right? Because the way those waves were super high in the air, crashing down on these people, you would think that would be the end of them. And the Bible doesn't speak of him again. You would think that such a prominent figure, right, in the story would be talked about more had he, survived, that, he would go and get his revenge on the people. We don't see any such story in the Bible, right? So we would assume when it's saying it was swallowed up, that means that these people were all basically wiped out and killed. So we have Merkabah, the Merkabah Stela, we have the Amarna letters or what have you. And this is another thing that we can look to, because with the Amarna letters, there is no mention of the Israelites, right? There's a people that they're talking about that everybody wants to point and say they're talking about the Israelites, but there's no proof of that. So like when we get into the Exodus story and just the validity of these people existing, as I always tell you guys, there's no proof of this, but you can clearly look in history and see where they're taking things from ancient Egyptian mythology, ancient Egyptian history, and trying to use the people who was around that day to make as if these people existed when there's absolutely no proof. The Amarna letters are written in Akkadian cuneiform, which is basically a language that they use when diplomats are basically corresponding. And those letters is basically saying how it's this group of people, it translates into like mercenaries, a group of people that's giving them trouble over there in Canaan, and they basically asking for help. So none of this is specifically saying Israel or Israelites or what have you, or Hebrews or Jews or what have you. There's nothing like this. And other people, again, would have written about these people doing exactly what they did, as far as, carrying the Ark of the Covenant, carrying the tabernacle, and everything that we see as far as the religious practices of these people. Nobody spoke of these people. There's absolutely no proof. You got to go and look at the history. Again, that's what's giving you the proof, right? Or the information. So when I'm reading all these debates and when I'm seeing the videos and people asking me questions, I see that people have a tendency to keep on going back to the Bible as if it's proven. The book is not proven. It is up for debate. Right? It is the book in question. So you can't use it as being proof to your story when it has never been proven, right? So people are going to say, well, the Bible says so. Well, the Bible says so. Well, who says the Bible is true? Nobody. It's a story. And this is what we're trying to get to the bottom of and prove the story's valid or not. And there's absolutely no proof. There's no archaeological evidence even of the Exodus story. And this is the one that people hang their hat on because it's the foundation story of the Jews, of Christianity, of everything. So if that's not true, what else is not true? And then common sense to tell you, dude, come on, talking snakes and donkeys, dudes with superpowers and everything like that. What do you think is going on here? Either it's a story that's parabolistic, talking about something else, or it's a complete fairy tale that somebody misinterpreted or what have you. So they'll even tell you, yes, it's a mystery surrounding the story. A lot of this stuff is likely untrue, embellished, or what have you. But we're going to just sit there and ignore the fact that, okay, Egypt was still part of the Egyptian empire because it's Egypt. And if Canaan, what they call Israel, was a part of the Egyptian empire when the Hebrews left, they never left Egypt. They were still in Egypt. So how are you going to flee Pharaoh, flee Egypt, as we keep hearing, to end up in Egypt, to end up in Egyptian territory? It don't make sense. And people just ignore that. They ignore the fact that Ramses getting swallowed up in the sea, and we still have his body. So if he was swallowed up in the sea, and it doesn't say that he survived or what have you, how the hell we get his body? Who is this dude we have, right? How come we have his body and none of the bodies or no chariots or what have you? And don't say, oh, they found chariot wheels in the Red Sea. That's debunked. This is bullshit. We don't have anybody else's body, but we have Ramses' body, who's supposed to have drowned with his army in the Red Sea. So we already see with the Ten Commandments and the negative confessions, which is in Egypt, right? We already see with Amen MOP and his Proverbs basically going with Proverbs in the Bible. And people can compare these two and clearly see plagiarism, basically stole from them. And there's so many other things we can look to in Egypt to see, hey, this stuff is biblical. Already got into the fact that we have, indeed, Pyramid of Onius, Teddy and Pepe. We have the first ever, right, writings of an afterlife, writings of a soul, a god, or what have you, right there. We have them in stone. There's nothing biblical that predates this stuff. So we already can see right here, where I'm standing, that this stuff is older than anything biblical. But preachers don't talk about this. Everybody wants to ignore this. And you have to even look at the Bible itself. So if God in the Bible was telling the Israelites, hey, you shall not worship any gods before me, as if there are gods before him. So that should already give you an understanding that there must be a doctrine or must have been a teaching from another God before this God. And then we have in Egypt, right, all these writings or what have you. So we're supposed to believe that these writings are nothing. Now, the Israelites never go up against the Egyptians or the Egyptian army as far as in the war, once they have the Ark of the Covenant in battle or what have you, right? That doesn't happen. So we can't say that he laid siege to Egypt or what have you and all this other stuff and the stuff. It was destroyed. It's still there. I'm standing right there with it. It's still there. And it's already proven and documented, guaranteed truth and fact of this stuff existing before anything biblical. Now, the apologists have you believe that because they kept the manuscripts in such a poor location, over the years, they were destroyed, disintegrated. We still have the seals that would have been on these manuscripts because these seals are made of like stones or what have you, metals. We still have the seals, but we don't have the actual manuscripts themselves. But that goes against, an all-powerful, all-knowing God who would make them put this stuff in stone so it will last forever. Now, people will say, Christians and apologists alike, will say, well, God did this and made this whole, problem, this issue, because he wanted people to worship him and to have this conundrum, right? To have this issue to where you have to basically show me that you have faith. And this is out there because he wants you to have faith. He wants it to be controversy and this thing to be left up to interpretation so that the real followers will obey him, right? Without question. You would just read it and you will obey him. You will follow the preachers and obey him and not question anything. Now, if that's the case, why even say, thou shalt not have any gods before me, right? If you're trying to have this whole, mix up. Why even kill all these people for worshiping other gods if you wanted this mix up? If you wanted people to have faith and, find you or what have you? Why not just come to these people and say, hey, I'm the one true God. The God that you're worshiping is not true. You should worship me. So there's a lot of holes, right? A lot of people poke holes in all this stuff, as you guys know. Looking at the validity of the stories in the Bible being taken from Egypt, it's not just Egypt. It's Sumeria. It's Greece. It's Greek and Egyptian mythology alike, right? So I talked about all this. We know where this stuff came from, and you have to follow the history and the stories that we know. Persia invaded Egypt and conquered. The Greeks invaded Egypt and conquered it from the Persians. And then everything from that point on is Greek, plain and simple. We have Serapis, right? It is not far-fetched for you to understand, especially when you look at the reliefs of Serapis Christos that I show you here. I took this picture myself, looking just like Jesus. So we already have proven history of these Greeks trying to get people to worship them as gods, right? So we already have proof. We already have history of the Greeks trying to get people to worship them as gods, right? So the ancient Egyptians was black. We have proof that Greeks are trying to get black people to worship a god in their image. This guy just so happens to look like Jesus, right? Or Jesus just so happens to look like Serapis Christos. Then later on, the dominating religion on the planet is the same dude. And okay, where did we get the earliest, writings of this? From the Greeks. Who gave us the New Testament? Who wrote it? It was written in Greek. Everybody was reading Greek back then. So, put 2 and 2 together. 1 + 1 is 2. It's common sense that you can look at this stuff and see. Going back to Kemet, we had the Ptolemies dressed like the Egyptians, right? I did a whole video showing you guys all this stuff that's Greek transforming into the Egyptian stuff. They basically stole their clothes, stole their likeness, made stelas like them. Once they took over, they basically tried to incorporate themselves into Egyptian culture and customs. We have all the proof of that. If you didn't see this video where I was talking about it, here we go. This is from the Greco-Roman era. Greco-Roman, when they came into Kemet and tried to basically, be like us, steal our shit. You see their statues here, they're putting their own little section. They actually came into Kemet and carved themselves into a lot of the walls. Here is the actual statue of Serapis Christos right here. You can see him. Serapis. You can see when they had Zeus, Ammon. So you can see where the stuff came from. Zeus, Ammon. Everything that we tell you about this stuff, it's all here. It's no bullshit. It's here telling you the truth about how they stole from Kemet. Look at this wannabe pharaoh right here. Look at the face, clearly. This is the Greco-Roman era. You see how they try to decree themselves like us. Make stelas. See, it's all in Greek. Bullshit. All here. Now, I know I show that video a lot, but there's a lot of new people, so I want to put it out and keep showing you guys this stuff is real, man. This is not just spooky stuff we're talking about. This is not, especially me, somebody copying shit from off of, YouTube or online or what have you, or Google. This is somebody who has actually been to these countries. I've been to every country in the Bible. This is somebody who's actually researched this stuff and reads the languages, right? Done the research. And here it is, man. You have to look at this stuff. So, debates are going to be had about these topics all the time. People are going to look to the Bible and look to Egypt and find the similarities because they do actual fucking research. The people who do not are going to be on YouTube, online, Googling shit, trying to make stuff fit. You have to do the research. You have to be involved with people who understand what's going on, who actually done this research. Right now, the attention span of people is not good. And a lot of people don't even want to go on Google and Google shit. They want to just watch a video and believe what the video says instead of doing actual research. People will actually watch a video and not Google what the person is saying or not look for a book or a reference to what the person is saying. And I just don't understand that shit. You can go, somebody will say something outrageous, right? Something about the Exodus story or something about Revelations, whatever it may be. And people do absolutely nothing. They don't even go and research it. They can say, well, this scholar said, and this scholar said. They don't research anything. They just say, well, this is the truth. And they post that shit. So the debate that's been ongoing about this whole thing is basically exactly that. And it's people who have no idea because they're caught up in the power of the Bible and the Pope, TV, everything we've been brought up to believe that this book is true. They're caught up in that. and they're not looking at the actual research as it pertains to the book. I told you, you can go into almost every church in your neighborhood. Majority of these preachers never heard of the Septuagint, or they don't want to talk about it when it comes to it, right? Even the Black Hebrew Israelites don't want to talk about the Septuagint. They don't want to talk about the validity of it. They really don't want to talk about the Septuagint because we know it was, basically put together by Ptolemy II Philadelphus, who was a white Greek. They want you to believe that King James was a black man, and that's the true Bible, right? But it don't exist, and no Bible don't exist without the Septuagint, which is Greek. So for people who want to believe that the Ethiopian Bible is the first Bible, it's not. For people who don't want to believe that, white people gave us this book first, we got it in slavery. I mean, you go back there, right? Because we can't find any biblical manuscript that predates the Septuagint Greek given to us, right, by black people. The Dead Sea Scrolls are kaput. It's bullshit. And the fact that, so you have the apologists basically saying, hey, all the scrolls was destroyed and all this stuff about, them being so old and papyri not lasting so long. The Dead Sea Scrolls seem to have, right? But even still, the Dead Sea Scrolls are not the originals. We never had the originals. We never will have them. So they got to look at all this stuff, man. It's just so much to really get into that'll bring you to the truth instead of you just believing what people are saying. And dude, I have a lot of videos on this, on the Bible, and on so much of this information that's out there. Again, I know it's a lot of newbies following. You guys got to go through a lot of the information I have out here, and you'll figure out, how to piece this stuff together along with your own research. I really wanted to get this half moon in the shot. If you guys can see it behind me right here, it's pretty dope. But yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on. That it's under the radar, man. For people who don't follow these forums and a lot of these chat rooms and people debating, there's a lot of huge debates going on. Just like we have our, boxing champions and everybody who knows who the best boxers is. It's the same thing with debating. It's the same thing with scholars and researchers and what have you. I'm glad to see my name pop up in underground stuff. And it's cool because a lot of people follow my research, and I'm glad to see them use it in a lot of stuff, a lot of debates or what have you. So I get tagged in a lot of stuff. I get poured into a lot of debates. It happens a lot. But this is one of the things that I think is it's not so hard. And it's very easy to really grasp when you look at the history. And if you're going off of biblical history, you're going to be lost. You're going to be stuck in that biblical history. Because when you go and do the actual research, which is why they say, hey, just have faith. Don't go research anything, really. The Bible tells you to be intelligent. But if you don't go do the research, you're not going to see this stuff. But there's no way you can have the faith or follow the book and then go do the research and look at real proven history and say the shit match up, because it don't. You're going to be on the side of the apologists trying to explain away all this shit, and you won't be able to. And that's the problem. You guys are not able to explain this stuff. So you're stuck, you're lost in the whole concept. And you have to go back and stick with the faith and not the facts or the truth of the matter, right? So this is where you are, right? And this is why we have these debates, because a lot of people come with their emotions and feelings thinking that it somehow wins the argument, and it doesn't. So for the people who do not know, there are more Egyptian artifacts found in Israel than anything else, right? There are absolutely no ancient or Hebrew or Jewish artifacts dating back to the time of this whole biblical story that pertains to, the Jews or what have you, or the Israelites. There's nothing. We don't find anything. These people never mentioned them. There is nothing mentioned about the Exodus or anything like that story. And the Egyptians wrote everything. There is no outside civilization talking about the Exodus. Nobody talking about 2 million Jews traveling out of Egypt into Egypt, right? Or even going from Egypt to Canaan. There are stories about nomadic groups, Shemitic groups, people who were in these small little groups and going out and doing things that they're trying to give validity to as being the Israelites, and it just don't fit. You're not going to have a people who did such amazing things like carry the Ark of the Covenant, into battle. Think about it. Carrying an Ark into battle and then using it to win. If you want to go off of Indiana Jones, how that whole thing worked. I guess everybody that looked died, but you would think that somebody from the civilization or the military, of the people who they conquered, saw that shit and ran. Somebody survived, right? And went to tell a story. It doesn't matter. These people have families, right? They left their families to go out to war. Now, because this is, again, scholars talk about this all the time. We're talking about the men who was of age, being like 600,000 men fighting in this army, the Israelites. There is no army on record during that time that numbered, over 25,000. So we're talking about the accounts of every type of war that we can have an account for. During that time, we don't find nobody with an army that's in the numbers of, fucking 100,000 even. So there is no way in the world they amassed an army so large and nobody talked about it. Nobody wrote shit about this massive army back then. But we have all these accounts of these other wars that happened before that time and during that time. But nobody talked about these people being in such great numbers. Not even the Egyptians, nobody who they beat, who we can't find nothing on these people, right? So it's outrageous to think about it. But you got to go ahead and look at that, man. And you got to look at, the artifact part of it is just easy. So let me wrap this up by saying I appreciate everybody, all the new followers, everybody that jumped on. Good job. Smart move. Trust me. A lot coming up, a lot that's going to be released soon. I appreciate you guys' patience on everything, as you know. But yeah, I'm going to try to do the live tomorrow from the fight if I can, if it's not too crazy loud, which I expect it to be. But you guys, if you follow me on the app, if you follow me on my Instagram, you probably see stuff being posted. So yeah, it's going to be cool. I appreciate everybody who've been hitting me up, man. I need the questions. I need everybody being engaged because a lot of debates on the ground that a lot of people don't get into. So I really appreciate it. And yeah, man, you guys know, just tag me, hit me up if you guys got any questions about anything, especially debates that you guys are in. I'm interested because I really like to see where people's mind is at, especially young people, as it pertains to biblical history and everything else. But yeah, I'm out of here. That's my time real quick. And yeah, thanks for taking the time to watch and support. I'll see you guys next video. Peace.